All right, welcome to biology lecture. This is chapter 1, lecture 1. We're going to talk today about the nature of biology and how that pertains to us in this class and everyone really everywhere. So first off, what is biology? Keep in mind you can typically follow along with the lecture slides that are prepared, and this lecture will somewhat follow that the vast majority of the time. So first off, what is biology? It's simply the study of life. We've got all these other things we can study in science, whether it's geology, studying the earth, or chemistry, studying chemicals. In biology, we study living things. So, why do we study living things? Well, we're alive, and so many things around us that are important are alive. One of the very, very important ideas in biology is organization. Living things are organized. There's no disorganization in living things, as there might be in non-living things such as rocks. Living things are very organized, and that starts at a very small level. This overarching idea is that structure in biology determines your function. In other words, how you are built determines how you're going to act. So, with this in mind, we kind of follow that idea throughout all of our biology class. We look a lot at molecular biology in this course. That is, we start at a very small level, at the chemical level of organization, and we see how atoms are structured and built, because how they are built determines how they act. And then how they act, like who's going to bond together with whom, then determines what type of molecules you're going to build. And then those molecules, based on how they are structured and built, will influence how they will hook together, interact, and so forth. What characteristics they're going to have. Do they dissolve in water or not? That's all determined by your atomic structure. And then those molecules, because they're built a certain way, are going to be able to do certain things. And then they build proteins from those, and those make cells, and then we get tissues and organs, organ systems, and finally a single organism. But to get a single organism, like a pepper, you have to start at a very low level of hooking together atoms, and it builds up from there in complexity to finally get to one single thing. All right, so another example of that might be DNA. Right, so DNA, each one of these represents actually a molecule, and these molecules are hooked together to form one really giant big molecule, and this is a tiny section of DNA, and each one of these little molecules is made up of actually quite a few atoms, different elements. So we see this idea that because these are built a certain way, these different molecules, because of their ingredients, if you will, that then allows you to build this particular shape of molecule, this double helix. It's all because of how these are assembled, okay? And then from there, that allows us to store information to go ahead and build other things. So it's complicated, it's complex, and we're going to look at this at different levels throughout this course. Okay, remember, just to say this again, the different levels of organization in biology, starting with the smallest level, is the chemical level. That's like atoms and molecules. Those hook together and form cells. Cells hook together and form tissues, like muscle tissue would be a good example. Tissues hook together to make organs, like your heart or lungs. All your organs work together, to make organ systems, like your digestive system. And then you put all those together, and you finally just get one living thing from that. So we'll look at different levels of organization throughout the year. But we'll spend a lot of time at the chemical and cellular level in this course. Okay, so how do we go about doing this science thing in biology? It all starts with observation. That is just gathering some sort of information using our senses and then we take that information that we're going to call data or data, however you want to say it is fine, and we're going to get that information and we're going to make some sort of inference from that and be like, oh, well, I see this happen, this must be related to this, and that's part of, that's science right there. But the first kind of thing we have to do is gather some information. We have to observe. So we use our 5 senses, and you can probably name your 5 senses, right? But those aren't always enough. Like, for example, if we wanted to look really close at this pepper, we could certainly look at it like, yes, it's a pepper. But that's not enough, because we know that this pepper is really made out of things like cells, and we can't see those with the unaided eye. So sometimes we need technology to extend our senses. A great example of that for us in biology is a microscope. So we use a microscope to extend our senses. That is, we would not be able to make certain observations without using that technology to take that sense and extend it to be able to make a more detailed observation. Another example might be finding the mass of something. I could hold something back, it's heavy or it's light, but if I put it on a scale, I can actually determine exactly what its mass is. That's using technology to extend our senses. So, great thing is we've got lots of technology now. We can extend our senses a lot, and we can really make a lot of observations and get a whole bunch of information, which is great for us. Whenever we look at this data that we get, we can look at it in 2 different ways. This data or information that we've gathered using all of our different senses and technology and so forth can be something we can put a number to, or something that we could not put a number to. And so we kind of separate that data into what we call quantitative data, that data that has a quantity, or qualitative data, that data that has some sort of quality to it that we can't put a number to. So example using this pepper again is we could go ahead and find some different quantitative data about this. Like, there's 1 pepper. Okay, that was a good one. But it's got a number to it, so it works. We could find the mass of this. We could be like, this is so many grams. That is a set number. We could open this up and we could make observations about exactly how many seeds are inside of this, and that would be also a quantitative sort of observation. Okay, some qualitative, the quality of it, is something you can't put a number to. So a good example of that would be like, it's green. All right, so this is a green pepper. That is a great observation. If it was brown, we could tell that information tells us something. If it was red, we'd know, oh, it's ripe, and so it's at the end of its lifespan type of thing. So that is a really great qualitative observation. I can also look at this and I can see there's no insect damage to it. So that's also a very valid qualitative observation. There's no disease on it. Right? All of those sort of things that you just can't put a number to is some sort of qualitative data. I will ask you to make some observations about qualitative and quantitative observations about certain things. Keep in mind, anytime you're measuring, well, science loves quantitative observation, numbers, because we can take numbers and we can average those numbers. We can put them in nice graphs, like that graph right there. We can do all these sort of really nice things with numbers that we can't always do with some of our qualitative observations. Even though when you're talking about things like animal behavior, qualitative observations are primarily what you're going to get. They're really great for that. But it's just easier to manipulate data if it is in a numerical format.